police responded to another ballot Dropbox fire where investigators believe that an incendiary device was used. Is somebody just throwing an old cigarette in there? Tim Walz had a secret fling with the daughter of a high-ranking communist official during his 1989 teaching stint in China. Tim was very handsome. I loved his eyes and his big mouth. We talked afterwards and he was very complimentary about my English. Dropbox fires, ballots up in flames in various places around the country. In Arizona, we had a postal service Dropbox that caught fire. There were some ballots in there, but it was a small number, a handful. This is an actual official ballot Dropbox, and the numbers here are much higher. You can see ballots in fuego. Not good. Don't want them to be on fire, generally speaking. The story comes from the Mirror. You see some photos here. Hundreds of ballots are now lost in a suspicious Dropbox fire, Washington State and Oregon State. Ballot was at Fisher's Landing in Vancouver, smoking early Monday morning. Photos were obtained by ABC affiliate KATU. Dense gray smoke pouring all over the place. Several police units converged. It continued to smoke. The outlet reportedly captured first responders, several burning ballots. According to the auditor, hundreds of ballots were in there at the time. Last collection was 8 a.m. Sunday. Only a few ballots were saved. The auditor urged anyone who dropped off a ballot to immediately request a new one. And here's another image. It says, we're going to change our ballot retrieval process so that ballots are picked up in the evening, leaving fewer drop boxes overnight. Earlier this month, ATF received a report of a suspicious device found near a ballot drop box. No injuries were reported. The ballot fire in Vancouver came hours after Portland police responded to another ballot drop box fire where investigators believe that an incendiary device was used. Is somebody just throwing an old cigarette in there, a box of matches, or an incendiary device? A bomb? Is that a terrorist attack? According to reports, the fire was reported around 3:30 a.m., only put out by security before the firefighters arrived. A report indicated an incendiary device had been found and it was later cleared. However, the police is still investigating. Officials have yet to give word on the status on the ballots inside there. So they're asking if you're in Portland, you know anything, talk to somebody. Portland FBI released a statement. They said the FBI is coordinating with federal, state, and local partners to actively investigate the two incidents in Vancouver. Anyone with information, please call us. And of course, they're saying Trump is mean. He's posting inflammatory statements. So that was the story. Here's what MSNBC was reporting with some video.
Breaking news from the Pacific Northwest. State election officials are working to determine how many ballots were destroyed overnight after two apparent arson attacks. Drop-off ballot boxes were apparently targeted in Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. Police found an incendiary device, that's their phrase, inside the Portland ballot drop-off box. County elections officials say fire suppressant inside the drop box protected nearly all the ballots. Only 3 were damaged. But officials in Vancouver fear that hundreds of ballots could have been damaged or even destroyed. It is not clear if the two are connected. The FBI is investigating.
That's happening there. In Arizona, as you can see, your boy voted, dropped off a ballot, and I was under the impression that our ballots were indoors because mine was indoor, but there are also ballots that have outdoor drop boxes that look just like that. And so you can see there is somebody else coming up to drop a ballot off. And so that person is right there and in it goes. So that's in Phoenix. This one is in Mesa, and this one has folks walking up there, and that one's outside. Now, the one that I was at earlier today was inside of a building. You can see that's the building that I was in. So we see what that is. This must be an arm. I'm like, what is this thing? It must be a parking arm that's going up and down. See that? Going back down again. All right. So if somebody rolled up on that and then dropped a book of matches in or something, you'd probably be able to identify who that person is. Here's another location. You can see it looks like people are just parking, and Mesa Dropbox. This is their close-up view. So they should have a bunch of cameras on all these things. Who dropped the ballots in there before they went smoldering? And here's ballot processing view number 1. It's happening right now in Arizona. We're always looking for Liz Cheney or Jenna Griswold or Jocelyn Benson. It's like finding Where's Waldo. Anyway, so they're there. We've got early ballot processing storage. So if you voted, there's your ballots. Oh, hey, there's mine right there. I see it. That's the one that's going to save America. It's right there, right front and center. Count it, baby. All right. So it's happening, my friends. We're right in the middle of it. Hopefully you're getting your ballots in and getting your votes in. But that is what's happening in Arizona. So keep your eyes on what's happening in your local states because things are getting squirrely out there, and we'll keep our eye on it. But now let's talk about this story. Kamala Harris and her vice presidential choice, Tim Walz. Apparently this guy had an affair with the Chinese communists. This story just broke today. It says Tim Walz had a romance with Jenna Wang, daughter of a CCP official, back in 1989. So it's old, back during his weird times in China. You don't really know what he was doing over there, but now this adds another another piece to the puzzle. We were all asking ourselves, why does somebody go over there 35 times? This is a good reason, because he's in love with a woman, with a communist, and he's a communist, so they probably thought they were going to make little communist babies and live happily ever after. But at least people had some other interesting theories out there, right? Like, what else was he going over there for? At least it's an adult woman, a 25-year-old woman. Like, that's good news. Could have gone a number of different ways there. That's a little bit of a surprise, actually, but it's good. All right, so Tim Walz had a secret fling with the daughter of a high-ranking communist official during his 1989 teaching stint in China. Daily Mail can exclusively reveal. Jenna Wang, now 59, claims the VP hopeful showered her with gifts and seduced her at his pokey staff accommodation. Whoa, what does that mean? Pokey staff? Like making fang fang? Anyways, the lovers could not risk holding hands or showing affection in public because Wang's dad was a high-ranking figure in the Chinese Communist Party, would disavow her if he knew. But their romance blossomed behind closed doors as they sipped tea, made love, and listened to George Michael's hits, leading the then 24-year-old Wang to dream about marriage and a new life in the United States. Sounds like a happy story, but it gets bad from here. No proposal was forthcoming from future Minnesota governor, though, and the shame of being treated, quote, like a prostitute eventually left Wang feeling angry and suicidal. Not good. So there's Walz and Wang, I guess. Here she is. Old photo, new photo. She's now emerging. Tim was very passionate, she said, and very romantic. I can still remember dancing with him to our favorite song called Careless Whisper. Anyone know that song? The fact that we couldn't touch or kiss in public just made it all the more exciting and intense when we were finally alone. We were deeply in love, and I wanted to marry him and start a family. When it didn't happen, I felt very unhappy and sad. Tim's behavior was very selfish. Walz's time in China is already a source of controversy. Of course, we already know he lied about being there for the Tiananmen Square protests. It later transpired he didn't join the staff of nonprofit World Teach in China until August. It was several months after he arrived in Foshan that Walz is said to have fallen head over heels for Wang, a pretty highly educated English language teacher at the nearby number 8 middle school. She was attending one of his lectures to brush up on her pronunciation when the 25-year-old Walz slipped her headphones aside and whispered into her ear. That's a pretty bold move there, Timmy. He walked right up to her and pulled that ear off and said, "You're very beautiful." Well, it's pretty aggressive. Tim was very handsome. I loved his eyes and his big mouth. We talked afterwards and he was very complimentary about my English. Wang told the Daily Mail, "There's Tim. He's over there. There he is again. That must be her. Is that her? Here's another photo. She must be providing all these photos." So is that him? Is she in this photo too? All right, I will try to point her out. My colleagues couldn't speak whole sentences, but Tim told me that if he closed his eyes and listened, it was like being back in America. Wang had a friend of the same teaching staff as Walz. Over the weeks that followed, the lovebirds grew closer, walking in the park, going to dances. They avoided overt shows of affection in case it got back to her father. Walz would travel to Hong Kong and Macau on the weekends. He couldn't sing, and when he tried to dance, he found it very hard. I could tell he was in the military. But we talked for hours and hours. We stayed in bed. We had intercourse. He continued to buy me gifts. I could never stay overnight because of the social conventions. It was very repressive. Couples walked around the cities like robots. My father would have been very, very angry and sad if he had found out. Jenna is the daughter of a CCP official, Bin Hui, who died in '99. There's Jenna on the beach in South China when she visited with Walz. During the summer, Walz returned to the U.S. but wrote letters to Wang, giving vivid depictions of his life and his teaching job in Nebraska. At Walz's direction, Wang says she sent off a passport photo and info about herself to an address in the States. Believing it was part of the process, Tim said, "I'll bring you over on a visa." When the future running mate of presidential hopeful Kamala flew back to China in '92, she resigned her coveted teaching role, believing she was about to embark on a new life to America. Now, their relationship soon began to sour, however, when Walz made clumsy romantic gestures in public, and on one occasion, trying to feed Wang a slice of pear as they embarked on a 10-day tour of South China. People were staring at us. I tried to reject it because I was very afraid. Teachers were supposed to set an example. The couple made sure to book 2 hotel rooms whenever they stayed out on an overnight train, even though Walz insisted that Wang sleep in his cabin. The conductor shone a flashlight on Wang in the middle of the night and started to admonish her, only to retreat when Walz afforded more respect as a Westerner woke up. When the pair reached the island, known for its tropical climate and beach resorts, Wang was ready to confront him about their future plans. There is not Tim Walz there at the Tiananmen riots, protests. Walz responded by suggesting that Wang was more interested in a U.S. passport than marriage. It was very offensive. I said to him that it is both or nothing. I wasn't giving up my life and position to move to Nebraska, a cold place in the middle of nowhere that most Chinese people had never heard of. I was giving it up to be with Tim, to get married and to start a family. Knowing now that he wasn't going to marry me made me feel cheap and common, as as if I was being treated like a prostitute. The next morning, Wang slipped out of their hotel, took a taxi to a remote cliff top, where she says she contemplated throwing herself off the cliff rather than returning to her old life in disgrace. Wow. But on the bus back to Foshan, she resolved to leave Walz, instead headed to Gillen to help her mother recover from a stomach surgery. The bus stopped, but I didn't get off. He said, please come and let's talk. Let's give this a chance, Wang recalled. But I said no. I felt dead inside. I wasn't going to force a person to love me. I never saw Tim again. That was it. From 1993, then Walz began leading annual summer trips back to China. He married Gwen, a teacher, in 94. They never crossed paths with Wang again. Says they last exchanged a pair of friendly messages over Facebook in 2009, talking about how their lives had panned out. The mother of one says she's coming forward now because she feels Walz behaved selfishly towards her and put her reputation and career at risk with his fickle behavior. Said Tim lied about Tiananmen Square, and he's lied about other things. This is a crucial moment in history, and a man like this does not appear to have the character and the integrity to do one of the most important jobs in the world. And the Harris campaign has not responded. So another story, old story about Tim in China, actually makes a lot more sense now why he was going over there all the time, because he likes Chinese communist women, I guess, and was feeding them pears and almost getting them killed. So another interesting story, very curious that it breaks last minute. Don't know that it's going to rattle any people on the left. I think they're probably giving him high fives on it. At least it's not an underage person or a CCP spy like Fang Fang with Bang Bang. Eric Swalwell, you know him. So we'll keep our eye on it, my friends. Thanks for joining us as we do.